But we have a great panel here, and this should be interesting. So I think if everybody will bear with us as we try to get through it, it'll be a similar format to what we were doing, but we'll figure it out. And again, it's one of the most contentious issues we've probably had in Key West, at least in my memory. And I think everybody has to remember that we all love the island. We all live here. Win, lose, or draw, it's still our home. So why don't we start at the end down there? Introduce yourself and your, I guess, affiliation or interest to be on this panel today. We'll kind of figure it out.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Arlo Haskell. I am the treasurer of the Committee for Safer, Cleaner Ships. I was born and raised here in the Florida Keys. You're going to meet Captain Will Benson here as well. We grew up together. I've known Will my whole life, or his whole life. I'm a couple years on him.
Diving in the canals and playing baseball. So.
Exactly. Grew up in this place, love this place. And back in March, we began to talk about how to limit cruise ships going forward in Key West. We organized a petition drive and got 2,500 signatures from registered voters in the city of Key West to put this item on the ballot. Our main interest is, giving the people of Key West a chance to decide the future of cruise ships here.
All right, guys.
Hi, my name is Bill Lay. I am representing Keep the Cruise Ships in Key West. I'm here with Captain Mike Weinhofer from the Compass Rose. Also from the radio station, what is it? 104.1. 104.1, shameless plug. I am here for one reason and one reason only, and that is people. This cruise ship referenda, if it passes, is going to devastate our economy, and it's going to devastate people, actual human beings. People like you, people who are watching today. I'm all for change. I'm all for everything. Economic change is actually good and it's healthy. I've been through it many times. The Key West I'm in here now, it's not the same Key West I was in 22 years ago. But that was a gradual change. There's nothing wrong with change as long as it's balanced and compromised. And that's why I'm here, trying to fight for the people, not devastate the people.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, guys. So I guess you guys ask questions. They'll decide who, ask to a...
One side.
Yeah, one side or another. It's hard to say pro or con or whatever,
Right.
but we'll figure it out. And then you guys will decide who you want to answer the question respectively. And we'll still do our minute and a half. We got a timer coming up here right now. And minute and a half. And we're going to have to really be, almost every part of this is calling out the opposition. So we'll just kind of figure that out and try to be polite and
Can I just add something before we start? Real quick. There's been some talk about division. I have no division with these gentlemen whatsoever. We work together. We seem to disagree, but we will do this together.
good. If we can keep that theme.
I second that wholeheartedly. Bill and I have worked together for many years, so we have different opinions on this one. But
and when I go offshore fishing, I go fishing with Mike.
So get the scotch.
Hopefully that's the way. Usually I really want a lot of, acrimony, but this one, be nice not to. We'll get there. So Mandy, what do you got for us?
All right. I would think for the committee guys, for Arlo and Will. The city's busiest cruise ship port at Pier B behind Margaritaville Key West Resort and Marina is privately owned and operated under a continuing contract that began in 1993 with the city of Key West. As you guys all know, the city receives 25% of disembarkation fees from Pier B. What happens if the courts decide that the proposed referendums, if passed, do not apply to privately owned businesses? And is the city in jeopardy of forfeiting much of its cruise ship revenues from Mallory Square and Outer Mole, only to have Pier B continue to welcome whichever ships it chooses?
First of all, point of clarification, Pier B is privately operated. It is not privately owned. It is built upon sovereign submerged lands that are owned by the state of Florida. These lands are constitutionally protected for the public benefit of the people. So that's a quick point of clarification. But hypothetically, if the judge were to rule that the referenda could not impose any restrictions on Pier B, the city of Key West, they would enter into a competition between Pier B and the city of Key West operated piers, and they would have to figure that out between themselves. I mean, that would be up to the city to figure out how those regulations work.
Good.
Joe?
I've heard a lot of numbers tossed around about how much income the city gets from cruise ships and how much people would be affected, how much passengers spend when they come into the city, and it's all kind of a maze to me, like all this is. But I'm just wondering, what are the real numbers? What are the real figures? Who would be hurt the most if ships stopped coming into port?
I'll let you guys start with this.
Just to be clear, you said who would be hurt the most?
Yeah.
In my opinion, every man, woman, and child in Key West. That number that we've thrown around, I think both myself and the other side of this table agree on, is roughly around between $85 and $90 million a year, somewhere around there. That has a massive impact on our community. It's about 24% of the spending that's done off of cruise ships by a vessel that brings in a third of our tourists. Now, again, compromise is fine, but to end this, exactly, just cut it off at the knees, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect a lot of people. It's going to affect David Horowitz, who just got let off from the Hemingway house after 20 years. It's going to affect Marilyn Atkinson, who just had a 7-year-old child, worked at Irish Kevin's for 10 years and was saving up for a house. Can't do that anymore, had to leave. These are the things. We're already in COVID time. This referenda is just going to add to the devastation that we're already in with COVID.
There's one thing I want to add to that.
Sure, go ahead, Mike.
People don't understand that 900,000 people come off the cruise ships. And one of the things that is part of that is, how are we going to replace that advertising? Those 900,000 people come here for 4 hours and see it. Today I fished a honeymoon couple that came here 3 years ago on a cruise ship. They fished a morning and a half day with me today and are lobstering on Thursday. How are we going to, how much money are we going to give the TDC to replace that 900,000 introductions to Key West?
Thanks, sir.
And could I get a response from the other side as well?
Sure. Large cruise ships are simply not a major contributor to our economy, and they're not a major source of jobs. Since 1990, we've seen a 750% increase in cruise ships. Job growth over that time has been flat. There are a small handful of jobs directly supported by cruising, but for many businesses in the city, large cruise ship passengers are a low-spending nuisance that competes with a higher-spending clientele. Over the last 20 years, when you look at the rate of change from one year to the next, you see that job growth actually often falls as cruise ship calls rise. In years where we have peak cruise ship numbers, you see job creation actually going down. We haven't had a cruise ship now in Key West for 6 months, plus the bars have been closed. Plus we have strict limitations on hotels, restaurants, and retail businesses. And yet, sales tax figures in July for the county were down only 9%. The August unemployment report that just came out from the state of Florida shows we have more jobs in Monroe County today than at any point during 2018. The city just passed a $62 million budget tonight. That's bigger than last year's actual budget. And over the last 20 years, city general fund revenue has grown at least double the rate of cruise ship traffic. The impact of cruise ships on city finances, on revenue at large in the city, has only gone down over the years.
Thanks, so. Richard.
The numbers that are being bandied about by both sides seem to be very extreme. And I know that, it's very easy to paint a picture when you have certain numbers to back you up. Why is there such a disparity between the numbers that are being presented by both sides?
Oh, you guys start and then.
Yeah, well, we are talking about a big change, and I think there is a basic misunderstanding about what we're trying to accomplish. It's been portrayed that the referenda would effectively be a ban. It's not a ban. The referenda is a set of reasonable limitations on the size of cruise ships that can call on Key West and the numbers of passengers that can disembark each day. It's not going to eliminate revenue. It's going to adjust it. We don't know when cruising is going to start up again. The no sail order has been in place since March. It's probably going to be extended when it expires at the end of September. It'll probably last through the end of the year. And just last week, Carnival Cruise Lines announced that they were canceling most of their sales through March and April of early next year. So we're in a big zero period. And whenever cruising starts up again, sometime next year or possibly the year after, if the referendum pass, smaller, safer, cleaner cruise ships are going to begin to come to Key West and bring tens of millions of dollars of new income into the city. It's going to be a change from the type of ship we saw in the past, from the type of customer we saw coming off those ships in the past, but it's going to be a big change from this long period of zero passengers. Right now, we're living through the ban. What we're talking about is restarting that economy with a different class of ships.
Bill, your thoughts?
My thoughts are simple. That's just not true. In 2019, we had 417 ports of call. If this referenda had passed, we would have had 22. Does anybody in this room or watching think that's a balance? It's just not true. You know, that is a 98 or 95% droppage. That is drastic. That is not a compromise. A compromise is working somewhere in the middle, working a comprehensive plan to make things a little bit better. Taking things from here to there in a mature, comprehensive way with a plan. This city doesn't park a car without a comprehensive plan of some sort. How, and by the way, just to be clear, the city, who is going to be, basically, if this passes, have it dumped on their lap, are going to be put in a very adversarial situation. And if you don't think it's true, please take a walk down Duval Street, because Mary, Joe, who work at the ice cream factory, don't work there anymore. Tom doesn't work at Irish Kevin's anymore. And by the way, Tom just got married. These are people. These are actual people. These are your neighbors that you see on your street. These are your neighbors who buy the Citizen. These are neighbors who listen to you 104.1. These are your neighbors. These are actual people who are going to be affected immediately. Once again, I do not mind the change. I'm all for change, just comprehensively and in a compromised sort of way.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Bill. It's okay. You're fine. We got some latitude now, time-wise. Stephanie?
I think the against side just gave us their view of what Duval Street looks like if this passes. The pro side, can you give us your view of what Duval Street looks like, and why do you think it'll look that way?
Yeah, I mean, collectively, we've abandoned one of the most, historically rich parts of our city. Front Street and Lower Duval Street is one of the architectural and historical wonders of the world. And if I have friends visiting, and it's a day when there are 3 cruise ships in port and 12,000 passengers unloading, I don't take them down to that part of town. Visitors that come to Key West and stay at our guest houses, they avoid that part of town on those days. I think this is an opportunity to really revitalize downtown Key West, particularly the cruise ship corridor around there, which has really been given over to a kind of lowest common denominator form of tourism in many respects. There's some great long-running businesses, down in that area. I worked as a waiter at Rooftop Cafe for many years when I was first out of college. There's some great long-term businesses, but the general tenor of that neighborhood has degraded during the same time that Key West has become more and more desirable of a location. So I think what I see with the passage of the referenda is a steady revitalization of downtown Key West.
I would add to that today I fished with a gentleman who, before coming on this trip, called and asked, hey, Will, are cruise ships back in there? Because I have, concerns with the COVID situation and the super spreader mechanisms that the cruise ships are. And when I was able to respond to him and say, no, there's a no sail order. We haven't had cruise ships for a while. He felt comfortable enough with that to come here. And tonight is going out to dinner, on Duval Street.
Bill, you guys, what do you think Key West is going to look like if this passes?
Real quick, my people today came from cruise ships. I probably get, I don't ever fish people on cruise ships that come in. They're here for 4 hours, 5 hours. It's a quick sample. You're right, I don't take my people downtown when there's a cruise ship here. But 32 years ago, I moved to a tourist destination. I knew, hey, in a perfect world, I'd love to see 90% of the tourists go away and live in my private little island and make my charter business fly. But you know what, there's some negatives. There's some impacts. It has to happen. It's the same when we fish on the flats or I fish offshore. There's an impact. We make an impact being here. If no one was here, it'd be an awesome place. But there's some give and take. There has to be.
Right now, I couldn't. Go ahead. Let's stop. Right now, I couldn't tell you what Key West is going to look. I know the city has put together a comprehensive plan to revitalize Duval Street. I haven't seen it yet. I hope to see it in the future. And again, once again, I said it before and I'll say it again. Change is good. Comprehensive change is good, done properly, without devastating the people who live here. All the people who either work in bars or it's going to affect the people uptown. It's going to affect the doctors. It's going to affect the accountants. This is a domino effect. I've seen this happen before. It's going to roll over. And it's not something that's going to come back like this. This is going to take a long period of time if this referendum goes through, and it's going to affect, again, I keep saying it, keep beating a dead horse, people, the very people who are in this room will be affected in one way or another. In one way or another, very people in this room, good, bad, or maybe really bad. But if this goes through, it's immediate. Again, this is a binding referendum. Again, if this referendum came as a recommendation, I would be sitting next to them. I would. But it didn't come as a recommendation. It's a binding referendum, which immediately is going to hurt people.
Thanks, Bill. One reminder, it's polite to look at me, but look at the camera. Look at Kelly. She's way prettier. So. Mandy.
Can I address the question to both sides? Okay.
And we're doing okay. Obviously, our schedule is 7:30. We sort of anticipated running a little late. I think Jathan will completely cut us off at 8. But this is important. We want to hash it out. If we start repeating ourselves, we'll stop it. But I think there's still plenty to discuss. So Mandy, whatever you want.
Bill Lay mentioned compromise, and Arlo mentioned that the proposal and the referendum are a reasonable reduction. There are supporters those who support a better managed cruise ship industry here in Key West have suggested certain compromises that include blackout dates for cruise ships during the busiest times of year, longer minimum stays for ships to give them time to stay here to benefit more businesses in town, and a gradual increase in disembarkation fees, as well as a gradual reduction, say a 20% reduction each year over the next 5 years in the number of ships that come to call. I'm asking both sides. Would the committee and/or the other side of the committee support any such compromise? And if not, does the Safer Cleaner Ships Committee have any suggestions to replace the lost revenues both to the city of Key West and private businesses? So I'd like a response from both teams there.
Bill, why don't you guys start?
Of course. That's a very fair question, and it's exactly what I've just been talking about. You just put out a plan. You literally just put out a plan in about 30 seconds.
Well, it wasn't me. I can't take credit
I
for
understand that. I understand that. And now to bring up some uncomfortable conversation, when it is uncomfortable. We very much tried to have a meeting with the committee, the other committee. We very much tried to have a meeting. We had that meeting. One of those two gentlemen were there, the other was not. We asked for a 2-year stay so we can sit down and see if we can come up with a compromise to this, because we immediately recognized the devastation. I'm not going to tell you what the answer was. I just will tell you that it wasn't accepted very well. I'll just leave it at that it wasn't accepted very well. And I said, thank you, but no thank you. It's probably the nicest way I can put that. I left that meeting going, wow, okay, we're not even willing to have a conversation about this. And again, your question is my answer. Everything you just mentioned is a compromise, and it's something to work towards without devastating the public, without devastating David Horowitz, again, who worked 20 years at the Hemingway House, who was just let go with 29 other people. Now, were they let go because of cruise ships? No. They were let go because we're in a COVID situation and there's a no sail order in town. But COVID will be gone. Cruise ships have an opportunity to come back. And I believe it's October 31st is when the cruise no sail order ends on that day. Whether it's extended on or not, we don't know. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. But right now, cruise ships are sailing in Europe at a very good success rate, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah, the referenda were actually, the result of a very spirited, public debate that began back in March as it, appeared that cruise ships were spreading COVID-19 around the globe. A lot of people in Key West were calling for an outright ban on cruise ships. We didn't think that would be a prudent, long-term solution, and that's kind of when we got involved with this compromise. That is a reasonable, set of limits. Bill mentioned that the city has a lot of regulations in place. It doesn't allow you to park a car without a plan. There's not a single regulation that applies to cruise ships in the city. It's the only unregulated business we have. So we're trying to put forward a set of sensible limitations. Bill talked about a meeting he had with Will Benson and Will's brother Jolly. That meeting took place after the referenda had been signed by 2,500 citizens, after it had been certified by the clerk and was already on its way to becoming a ballot. At that point, we don't have the authority, if we wanted to retract this referenda. This is something the public has made happen. The supervisor of elections has certified, and it's going forward. We can't pull it back at this point. It's there's a lot of work we put into it, and yeah. So as far as that kind of a compromise, that's just
So
our
that's
job
not,
is to
so
represent
any of those
the-
proposed compromises, any of those proposed compromises, blackout dates and a gradual reduction, that's not possible? Like the committee's, that's sort of out of the committee's hands, is that what you're saying
I
now?
think,
we don't
Manny,
have
just
the-
if
we
I
don't
can
have the
jump in,
authority to do that.
right now, we're barring a lawsuit or a judge stopping it. It's a binary decision on each one of these three questions, correct? So
Correct,
that
yes or no.
the time to discuss it and craft it is long before us. Right now, the voters, the people watching this, they're going to have three questions in Key West, yes or no. Doesn't matter if you like a little bit or a lot of each, that's it, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
But I would add that, you mentioned before that you don't do anything without a comprehensive plan, right? Well, we have that plan, and it's called the Murray Report. It was commissioned by the Navy, City of Key West, and in that report, there's laid out, all of these issues. And then we had a vote in 2013 about whether or not to move forward with dredging, and it was overwhelming. And yet, since then, we've seen a 27% increase in larger cruise ships, and there's never been any leadership, and that's why we have referenda. Referenda at any level is basically a failure of leadership. This report's been on the table. It's very clear. In it, there's lots of great information, data, and it's never been listened to. And so, that compromise, I think we took it upon ourselves to, try to reach out to achieve compromise, and that is with safer, cleaner ships, smaller ships that are the more responsible type of ship to bring into this, very limited channel that we have here, and kind of achieve a balance between, what's happening down in Duval Street, the economy, the quality of life, the environmental issues, and it's all right there, but it's never been, taken up by anybody at the city or within the chamber.
Let me stop you, because I took us way off track, but I want to give you guys some opportunity to
I have-
respond to this, then we'll get back to
I
the
have
normal
a
format.
problem with the term safer, cleaner ships. And the reason why I have the problem with that is the newer, largest ships, I'm not saying the 8,000 passenger, but the 2,500 passenger ships, the Majesty at Sea, is a zero pollution ship. They recycle all their food, they burn everything on board to create energy. They are a zero landfill ship. You look it up. It is one of the cleanest ships there is. The newer ships are much, much cleaner and much more efficient than a smaller other ships that we're talking about. And it kind of blows my mind. We keep talking about ships that are built in the 1990s. Those ships are antiquated. These ships that are built in 2010, 2005, 2007 are so much cleaner, so much more efficient. The whole thing about cruise ships burning bunker oil is a fallacy. They burn the same diesel I burn in my truck and in my boats. They don't burn bunker oil anymore. That's a fallacy. Doesn't happen.
And to add to that, the report that is being quoted is from 2005. I'm pretty sure everybody can understand we're not in 2005 anymore, it's 2020, and things have progressed since then, quite a bit.
That's the point. It's 15 years of inaction on cruise ships and the time.
Let's get back to the regular scheduled program here. And Joe?
Not asking you to defend the attorneys for Pier B Corporation. I don't know if you can defend an attorney, really, but they have been fighting mightily with all their power to first take these issues off the ballot, and now I guess we're still waiting on a judge's decision to see if the votes will be counted. The very people who would vote on this issue are the people you're talking about, who are in the position of maybe losing money if the referenda are passed. So what's wrong with letting the people in the city vote and decide?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I'm not Pier B. I believe in
that's what I said.
I believe in democracy and I believe in a vote.
Yeah.
I'm here because I want everybody to vote no, no, no. That's why I'm here. I didn't say I don't want anybody to vote. I want everybody to vote.
In case it wasn't clear, they want you to vote no.
But, all right, so just, I'll give you as much as I know. I'm aware of the Pier B situation. I don't know who's not aware of the Pier B situation. I get it. I understand why they would have a problem with it because, that pier is part of their operational plan. When they built it and spent the money on that pier, and again, please don't quote me on the numbers. I don't know exactly how much they spent on the building and the pier, but money was spent. And that became part of the operating plan was that pier, and now we're taking that away from them in some sort of, referenda. I would, if I owned Pier B, I would fight it. But me, Bill Lay, sitting here in front of you, I want people to vote. I want people to vote. I believe in democracy. I'm here because I care. I'm not here because I'm getting paid. I'm not here for any other agenda other than the people and the economy of Key West. I cannot urge that enough. This, again, I have some history with this. I've seen this happen before in other places. Once you remove whatever makes one of the focal engines of what makes things economically run in one area, I'm not talking about change it. I'm talking about removing it. Gone. See you later. Bye-bye. Take Mickey Mouse out of Disney. Take Donald Duck out of Disney. Take the castle out of Disney. It's a different Disney. It's changed. People are not going to go back. It's possible people wouldn't go back. Probably a bad example. But take the means
I'm
of
gonna
getting
stop you,
those people
Bill.
to Key West.
They win Academy Awards with Toy Story.
So I guess,
Like I said, bad example.
Arlo and those guys really don't have anything to say about Pier B, but.
Well, Arlo, you made the statement a while back that the people of Key West never really voted to bring ships here anyway. So, I mean, why
That's right.
shouldn't they have the opportunity to vote?
Yeah, that's very well put, Joe. I mean, we never voted for cruise ships that are 3 city blocks long. We never voted for cruise ships that draw 28 feet of water and stir up the harbor and spread silt all over the seagrass beds and the reef. So now we finally get to vote about putting a reasonable set of limitations forward. We're in court, as you mentioned. We're confident in the legal merits on our side, and we'll continue to see that process through and give the people of Key West the vote that they deserve on this issue. I've got a little time. I wanted to.
Well,
no, we can move on. That's fine.
Well, let's move on, and better to have more questions and stuff. Richard.
Each side has demonstrated a very determined, well-funded support strategy. And this kind of builds a little bit on what Joe had asked. So how do you justify the will of the people, which in some cases is the 2,500 plus people who signed the petition in the first place, with the will of the workers, or the will of the people that are ostensibly affected by what could come down the pike? Whose will wins out in this deal? Because someone's going to get hurt, right?
Who's first?
Can I address that real quick? One thing I have to say, I have 5 charter boats at Key West. I've been here 32 years. I live in Cudjoe. Because my business is here, it affects all my businesses. I won't be able to vote. How is that fair when I'm taking 5 impacts with no say? I have no representation. I pay a tremendous amount of money to Key West. All the people, I would say a lot of the people that work in the businesses in Key West do not live in Key West. Very expensive place to live. A lot of the workers live up the Keys. So none of those people will have a vote.
And also, the workers, when they said that they called, they wanted to have a debate about this and this and that, they never necessarily called the 200 block. I don't know. At least my phone never rang. I know other people's phone didn't ring. I don't know if they
Who is
actually
they,
called the
Bill?
people who were affected.
Not us, you mean?
Trying not to call them out. You just told
No,
them
but
to
not,
call
no,
them.
I understand. I said debate, you're not saying hometown.
I'm not saying hometown.
Okay.
No, I am not saying hometown. At the end of the day, the people will speak. There are 15,000 registered voters in Key West. I forgot how many showed up for the primary. I believe 8,000, if I'm not mistaken. So I still got 7,000 to work with. And again, I'm here to show those people that they have a say. And voting couldn't be, and now I'm going to tell you to vote for whatever side, but vote. Make sure you vote. I want to see 100% voter turnout. I really do. Sounds naive, I know, but that's what I want to see is 100% voter turnout, because this is going to affect all of you, all of you.
Guys.
Yeah, I mean, but Mike said he had 5 charter boats, there's 4 other people that, any of them live in the city of Key West?
No.
So
Not one of them.
not one of them lives in the city of Key West.
No.
Well, I too, live in Sugarloaf Key, and I run one boat. I'm a lone owner operator, similar to many, many other guides that are, living down here in the Florida Keys, in the lower Florida Keys. And, I have seen it, in the time that I've grown up here as a kid and been a captain, the effects and impacts that the cruise ship traffic in the harbor has had on the marine environment. I used to dive coral heads that are now covered in silt. I've watched a diminishing population of tarpon, which is the bread and butter for a lot of small businesses here that are good paying businesses. You can afford to have a mortgage, have kids in school, and we're watching it decline. And there's historical precedents, particularly with regards to the tarpon migration in Port Aransas, Texas, and Homosassa, where those fish alter their migratory patterns and no longer come. And that's what we're seeing, and one of the reasons that we've engaged on this issue is because we're seeing that impact daily. If you're out there at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, when the cruise ships are coming in, you can watch the exact effect that it has, on those fish. And if you dive in the water, you can see that, as the Murray report laid out, the harbor looks like a blasted moonscape. There's no soft corals, there's no Gorgonian sponges, there's no seagrass down there. It is a silt-covered blasted moonscape, and it's like you're trying to live in your house and you have a sofa or whatnot, but every morning a bulldozer comes through and takes it all away. Are you going to stay there and be comfortable and be part of a fish migration that supports hundreds of jobs? That's the issue for many of us, and one of the reasons that I've engaged in it.
I need to address that.
Michael,
I
will you,
apologize.
very quickly, I'll let
I'll
you.
be quick.
We're
Okay,
loose
over
on
the
rules
past-
right now.
In 1989, they put the TED devices in shrimp boats. Most people don't know this, they don't fish. I spend 300 days a year on the water. Used to spend 60 to 90 days fishing in the harbor, tarpon fishing, 8 hours a day, from March to June, okay? I didn't fish in the morning for an hour, I fished all day. I watched cruise ships go in. Yes, it shut the tarpon down for 15, 20 minutes, okay? What has changed in the harbor? We used to have all the shrimp boats come in and we used to have 50 shrimp boats on Stock Island. We now have 3. We used to watch head shrimp every day by Tank Island. There used to be giant schools of permit, giant schools of tarpon, okay? The cruise ships would go by and mud it up, but we'd fish, I'm fishing 10 feet from the channel, and it would shut down a fish for 15 minutes. What happened is, we have 4 shrimp boats here now. They don't head shrimp anymore. There aren't very few permit left in the harbor. There are very few tarpon left in the harbor. What has happened with siltation is from the shrimp boats offshore. When I brought up the TED devices into shrimp boats in 1989, I don't know if you guys know what the TED is. It's a turtle exclusion device. What it is a round hoop with bars on it. Shrimpers never wanted to touch the bottom, ever. If they touched the bottom, they pulled up the eelgrass and it filled the nets. When they put the TED devices in, the TED devices actually push the grass out of the shrimp boats, out of the nets. So they can pull for 3 or 4 hours, drag it across the bottom, and they rake up all the grass, all the eelgrass off the bottom. It goes right out the TEDs. You can get the kingfish fly plane for spotters, for kingfish, go out there and you can see every place the shrimp boats work. It's white sand now where there used to be all eelgrass beds, okay? With 2 days of north wind, we get white siltation all through the harbor. We have more sediment than we've ever had. There is no new restrictions on shrimp boats, okay? What happens is that on a falling tide, all that sand comes from the Gulf over to the Gulf and across the harbor and out to the reef.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Stephanie.
14 years in Key West, I've never heard so much talking of fish in my entire life. I've managed to avoid this. Election day happens. If all 3 referendums fail, or 1 or 2 fails, where does this organization move forward then? Do you go back at it, or do you accept that as the answer?
Well, it's to them, because you
Okay.
said if it
All right.
fails. If
Go
you guys,
for it.
if you win
To
and they
us.
lose, what happens?
I'll wait.
We are focused on getting everyone to vote yes for all 3 referenda in November. We haven't thought about November 4th. We know if we win, we're going to get sued by Pier B on November 4th. But other than that, we haven't thought about losing. We feel good about our chances. I mean, more than feeling good about our chances, we know we have a lot of work to do, a lot of people to convince. We're going to continue to, educate and research and share what we know and talk to voters in this community to show why limiting cruise ships in the future will be better for Key West. Mike said earlier that he'd love to see 90% of tourists go away, and that's not our goal at all. We don't feel that way. We're pro-tourism. We work in tourism. We want to see the city of Key West thrive, and we know that it's built around tourism. And we see this limitation on cruise ship size and disembarkation numbers as the best way forward for that.
Sure.
As hard as I am working to save the jobs of people like you, people who are watching right now, you have my pledge that on November 4th, after we win, I'll reach out, make that phone call and say, let's sit down and work this out. Because that is what I'm all about. I'm not gonna walk around, I may be a little hungover on November 4th, but I'm gonna wake up and make that phone call. The reason I'm gonna make that phone call is because that's what community does. We work together for a common goal, a comprehensive plan to move forward together. Somewhere along the way, it was funny, this last commission meeting, J.T. Thompson was celebrated for 20 years of One Human Family. That flag right now is crumbled up and somewhere in the corner. We need to pull it out, iron it, and rehang it. And that needs on the issue and whatever issue we have in life. That needs to happen not tomorrow, not 2 days from now. So after we win on November 3rd, after we win on November 4th, my pledge to everybody who's watching here and everybody here who's asking questions, I will reach out to Arlo and Will and Jolly and said, let's sit down, let's figure this out, and let's bring some other people involved, maybe the city, maybe the county. Let's get some comprehensive planning together to make a great community for everybody.
Actually, that's a great intro into, we're done with questions, we're running past time, but I think we really had a good discussion. Give us your speech to why you're gonna win, or why you should win, and then you guys will end. And I like what y'all were saying, and I actually had a question designed almost to that. So go ahead, Bill.
Listen, Key
Keep
West.
it within like a half hour.
A half hour. Got it. I have 30 minutes. All right, listen, Key West. We are 2 groups who are up here, divided in spirit, but together in soul. We know he wants the best thing for us, for the community. We want the best thing for the community. I have no interest, zero interest, especially during COVID time, especially during this time, to add salt to a wound and devastate more jobs. I'm trying to protect your jobs. the lower part of Duval Street, middle part of Duval Street, upper part of Duval Street, and guess what, for the rest of Key West, because this will affect everybody. It's a domino effect that will be devastating to everybody. I ask everybody, urge you to please vote no, no, no. And let me give you a little tidbit real quick. You're probably turning around and going, why are you voting no on number 3? You don't get a hall pass on number 3. Everybody loves number 3. Of course you do. I get it. But there's no criteria to it. 0. Where's the criteria for number 3? Who's governing this? Where's the list? You know, Governor Rick Scott and Marco Rubio, I think last week, put something together, making, I believe it's called the mandatory role for cruise ships. And it gives them a concrete list of things they need to do. This is already being exercised in Europe at a very, very successful rate. Already happening in the Mediterranean. That is happening right now. Look it up. So again, my pledge to you, and I'm sorry, Mike, I'm taking some of your time. My pledge to you is that on November 4th, after we win, vote no, 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 and on November 4th, we will sit down and make this work the way Key West is always meant to be, together.
I promise I'll be quick. Like Bill.
Hold you that.
Hold me to that. Okay. Everybody in Key West is concerned with quality of life. It's one of the most important things. It's why we all live here. It's why we enjoy being here. But there's a cost to living in a tourist destination. There are certain things that happen in this town I don't agree with at all. When they put in the parking shuttle bus for the $19 fares to bring tourists to Key West, I was appalled. I don't understand. The TDC tries to bring in 4- and 5-night stays, and $19 fares to Key West is not what we need. We all want a better quality. I mean, we all sit on the same side here. We want more tourists with more money that want to have less impact and less tourists, so it works. But to cut it off at the knees doesn't work. We need to take the time to plan this out.
Sure. There hasn't been a cruise ship in Key West since March. The CDC no-sail order has been extended 3 times and now runs through the end of October. It'll probably be extended again, at least through the end of the year. As I mentioned earlier, last week Carnival Cruise Lines canceled most of their sailings through next spring. They sold off 18 of the large cruise ships, a lot of them which used to come to Key West. So with or without the referenda, Key West will go an entire year at least without seeing a single cruise ship. This referenda offers voters a once-in-a-lifetime chance to make a fresh start with cruise ships on our own terms. We never voted for the ships we get today. We never voted for the environmental damage they bring, for the overcrowding they bring to our streets. These ships threaten our health and they damage our reputation. They provide mere pennies on the dollar that other tourists spend. Small ships make up the cruise industry's luxury and premium market. Their passengers spend up to 10 times more on ticket price alone than the big market cruisers we see today. Small ships spend more time in port, they visit more attractions, and they spend more money. Small ships have a lower risk of disease and less impact on our waters. So after 30 years of unchecked growth, it is time for the people of Key West to be heard on this issue. As ships start sailing again sometime next year, choosing safer, cleaner, smaller ships will help protect our health, our environment, and our way of life, while helping us build a stronger and more sustainable economy for the future. So please vote yes, yes, yes on November 3rd and help us move into the future.
Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, and I'd like to close with nothing really having to do with the facts here, but to say that, you know, surrounding the whirlwind of this whole issue, it's been said that, you know, some of us don't live here, we're not from here, so on and so forth, and that's just not true. I see Mike almost every single day. I eat in Bill's restaurant, and it's true, we've had engagements, and I look forward to, you know, more of it on this issue or other issues, and I just want everybody to know that we have a lot of respect for each other here, and that we're from here, and we all care about this, regardless of which side we stand on, and I just want to make sure that the public out there knows that this debate's being conducted, you know, among friends who disagree.
I think good words, Will. And something very important that differentiates these 4 individuals from everybody else up here tonight is that the politicians are, I mean, they're vying for a position, and they're going to make millions of dollars, well, actually, not millions of dollars, too. I mean, it's a thankless job being a politician, but they're there to win something for themselves. All these guys are getting is horrific Facebook posts for the rest of their lives. So thank you guys for taking this unenviable position of being here on camera. It's going to be recorded, and I can't imagine the brutality you're going to just unfriend everybody. So, and to our panelists, thank you so much. It's been a long night. To all our members and everybody on television, Clinton said we had over 200 people just on our website feed. So I can't imagine how many are on the two county channels. So we will see everybody again October 5th for all the state races, state attorney, state rep, state house, and U.S. Congress. And I think everybody's confirmed. So that should be quite a night. Thank you, everyone, and send us some checks. Bye.